Like at some point, there are conspiracy theorists. Let's say this: there are conspiracy theorists that believe that Caitlin's injury, that the league knew a long time ago that she wasn't going to be able to make a return. And as a result, they just basically have been stringing us all along because the more that we talk about Caitlin, the more we pay attention. So there's an argument that if they've known all along, maybe she's not headed back to the court anytime soon. But we get these little nuggets and it gives everybody hope. And I'm trying to figure out what they should actually do when it comes to putting her back on the court.
Yeah, the Fever have been incredibly tight-lipped about this for good reason. It's the best game planning tool that you can have. It's the best kind of, chip that you can have in your back pocket to make your opponents have to wonder and have to question what Caitlin's availability will be. And they announced, even though after she returned to non-contact practice, they did announce that she was still going to be out for the Fever's Tuesday night matchup against the Seattle, which they just absolutely clapped Seattle 95-75 win on Tuesday night without Caitlin Clark. I do not think that they should rush Caitlin Clark back from injury. But look, the Fever have an 88% chance per, ESPN statistics, have an 88% chance of making the postseason because of what they were able to do, not just with Caitlin, but how many games they were able to win without Caitlin. But it's not just about Caitlin. I mean, the Indiana Fever have been absolutely injury bitten, unlike any other team in the WNBA. They lost Sydney Colson to an ACL tear. They lost Ari McDonald to an injury, a season-ending injury, and Sophie Cunningham to a knee injury as well. The Fever didn't have a single healthy point guard for a decent bit after Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson went out with their respective injuries. So I do not think that the Fever should rush Caitlin Clark back because they're still shorthanded without those other three players. Now, I will make the argument for maybe people that would say, yes, Caitlin should come back from injury. It's, look, they're going to make the postseason. They have proved that they have continued to find ways to win. Like I just said, they had a 20-point victory over Seattle on Tuesday night. You're getting production from Aaliyah Boston, who had 27 the other night. Kelsey Mitchell continues to be absolutely outstanding. She had 21 the other night. Odyssey Sims has come in and been able to make some offensive production as well. So credit to the Fever and credit to Stephanie White, their head coach. They're continuing to find ways to win, not just without Caitlin, but without Sydney Colson, Sophie Cunningham, and Ari McDonald. So the argument might be, well, if the Fever make the playoffs, they've found ways to win without these injured players. If you add Caitlin Clark back in, not only can they win a couple of playoff games maybe that they weren't supposed to, maybe the Fever shock the world adding Caitlin back into this roster and they actually win a playoff series or can even make a push for the playoffs. I can see that argument, right? Because they're more than likely going to find themselves in the postseason. I just think if you're the Fever right now, everything is house money. Every game you can win is just with house money. You go into the playoffs, see if you can make some noise, but you hold back Caitlin Clark, understanding that that's going to help you more in 2026, more than it ever could in 2025, especially, let's say, if the Fever draw the Minnesota Lynx, the best team in the WNBA, in the first round of the playoffs. What does adding Caitlin do for you right now that's more valuable than what she can do for you in the long run at 100%?
That's where, look, I'll credit, to your point, their ability to remain competitive, but they're barely a 500 basketball team. And in their last 10 games, they're 4-6. This is not a team that's wildly hot. Like, you look at the Vegas Aces, they've won 12 in a row, right? Like, so if you're talking about a team that's hot, like if the Fever were on this just massive sprint, then I'd say, yeah, bring her back. If you can get her back on the floor, 80% of Caitlin Clark is worth it. But this is one of those moments where, to your point, we have to kind of question what the return means, right? Like, if she's coming back she's battled hamstring, groin injuries, all of this, and it feels like a kinetic chain issue where every time she gets back out, we're all holding our breath trying to figure out, can she be healthy? Is she the best of herself? The worst case scenario for the W is that a single second of this injury bug bites its way into next season. That is absolutely the catastrophic point here. And what did we just see? Like, we just saw in the NBA, guys getting back on the court that maybe shouldn't have been back on the court, and all of a sudden we get Achilles injury after Achilles injury. I don't even want to speak that into possibility with Caitlin, but the fact is, when you've had a year like she's had, where everything has just gone wrong from an injury standpoint, and you're trying to figure out how healthy she is, and you're trying to figure out how much you need Caitlin on the court, not just to be competitive, but for everybody to pay attention, I just think you also have to step back and say, okay, short-term versus long-term. Would it be great to have Caitlin in the playoffs short-term? Absolutely. It would lead to eyeballs in the first round. even if they got demolished by the Lynx. But let's not get it twisted. Minnesota is playing at a different level. Like, the Lynx belong in a totally different playoff team conversation than Indiana belongs in. So you'd be basically putting in the superstar of the league, the face of the league, for a Hail Mary attempt to try and remain relevant through one round of the playoffs. I would much rather play it so wildly safe. If I'm the Fever, I look around and say, man, this year the basketball gods said not you, right? So let's wait until next year when we get everybody healthy and try and give ourselves a real chance for a really competitive team for Indiana moving forward, to give ourselves the best chance to actually build towards a championship with Caitlin, which is what the W ultimately needs the most.
And look, I hate this for the Indiana Fever that they're even in this position, because the moves that they made this past offseason proved that they were capitalizing on this roster right here, and they were making a championship push. That they were putting veterans, championship caliber, championship winning veterans around this really young team to really shape them and mold them, and to be able to, kind of teach them by osmosis how to get through the grind of the season. But it was injury after injury after injury. Now, I say right now, knowing basically nothing about Caitlin Clark's status, just that she returned to shoot-arounds and non-contact practice, that I would continue to hold her out, because I think that next season is way more important than getting back let's just say, hypothetically, based off of nothing, let's just say she's 75%. Well, wouldn't you rather sit her until next season and get 100% Caitlin Clark, 110% Caitlin Clark? But I don't know her status right now. So maybe Caitlin is much closer to returning than we know, and that the Indiana Fever are willing to let on. But just having close to no information about her injury where it is right now, I just say you don't risk it. Because what if, and I don't even want to say it to put it out there in the universe, but I will anyways. What if she further injures herself to where she's out for the next few months, or she's out at the beginning of the season next year, that she just continues to face setback after setback? Now, I wish that on not her. I don't wish that on anyone. But that is the risk that you face if you do rush Caitlin Clark back from injury. Again, the Fever are probably going to make the postseason. 90% chance, at least where it stands right now, to make the postseason. Go in there. You ride the ones that have gotten you through this injury, period right now. You ride it with Odyssey Sims. You ride it with Aaliyah Boston. You ride it with Kelsey Mitchell, who has been, if you haven't been tuning into what Kelsey Mitchell has been doing, she has been must-watch TV. You ride those players and see where they can take you. Everything else is just a cherry on top.
Shouldn't we be applying the NBA logic at this point, though? Like, I would argue that, okay, they have a 90% chance at the playoffs. Fine. They have a almost 0% chance at doing anything meaningful in the playoffs, in my mind. Like, the chances that Indiana is going to end up winning the WNBA this year, like, that's not going to happen, right? So the chances that they're going to make it to the final, that's not going to happen, right? So at this point, if I'm Indiana, what I really want, I don't want Caitlin. Like, at this point, I'm on the fringe of the playoffs. I'd rather lose my way into a better draft spot. I would rather lose my way into a better draft spot. Like, we are at that tenuous spot where, like, yeah, having the potential of Caitlin for one playoff series matters. I get that. Matters to everybody. But long-term to the growth of Indiana, like, wouldn't it be better if you're sitting right now and they're right in that middle section where a game or two makes a huge difference in where their draft standing would be? You're talking about the chance to get a much better draft pick if you miss the playoffs. Like, it's long-term, it's better for Indiana. This is the same argument we make in every other league. Like, when we reach this point in the NFL season, it's like, well, why bring your quarterback back? He's just going to win you enough games to hurt your playoffs or your draft seeding. Like, it's the same argument here. I think it's actually better long-term for the Fever if Caitlin doesn't play this year and you get a better draft pick.
And look, fair argument to be made, but the Fever, even without Caitlin Clark, even if they just keep riding with the team that they have, that they've been putting out there on the court, they're still not going to be as bad as the Wings or the Sky or the Connecticut Sun. Whatever the Fever do, they will continue to probably stick in kind of what I'm calling this mucky middle of the WNBA. At the top, you have the Minnesota Lynx, and they are up there and they are alone. And then there's kind of this jockeying for second place. The Vegas Aces literally cannot and will not lose. They have kind of jumped up the standings at the number 2 spot, but you have Atlanta, you have Phoenix, you have New York that are all vying for this second spot. And then you have Seattle and Golden Golden State and Los Angeles and Washington and the Fever are kind of at the top of that group. They're going to be in that mucky middle no matter what happens. That I do hear you in terms of draft position. I just don't think that there are enough games left in the regular season for that to make all that much of a difference, where they're now in a window right now where they're making the playoffs. So you get in there and you try and do whatever you possibly can and win as many games as you possibly can and enjoy the ride doing it.